As for why he settled in Busra, it was because a terrible truth became clear to the man, which is that the people of his religion had changed their religion and completely deviated from the principles that Christ had brought them, and only a very few people remained on the true religion. The man was greatly disappointed after what he saw the vast gap between the principles that Christ, peace be upon him, had brought and what the religious men were doing now, let alone the rest of the people. He tried to fix things, and he made a great effort in that. But he failed, and his endeavor was in vain, so much so that he despaired of any glimmer of hope in this area. Therefore, there remained no hope for him, except for the seal of the prophets whom Christ had prophesied about, and whose name and description were mentioned in the gospel, that prophet who would emerge in the lands of the Arabs from the direction of the sanctuary, and whose time had come. For he had chosen Busra to always ask the men of Quraysh about this prophet, those who come to it with their trade in the summer of every year. George lived in Busra for a long time, waiting for the emergence of the seal of the prophets, anticipating his appearance, and asking about him every visitor from the land of the Arabs. During that time, his status had risen to great heights, as his knowledge and piety had raised him until he became the greatest religious man in the Levant, in knowledge, work, character, and conduct. So much so that people called him Bahira, and he became a symbol for him, and he was known only by it. They wanted to liken him to a monk who lived before him by a long time and became widely known for his piety and righteousness. He taught him and memorized him, and people remained for a long time mentioning him and praising him. Then the new Bahira began to cut himself off from people after he got tired of their situation. He lived the life of a monk, so he built a hermitage for himself, as was the custom of the monks of that time. Far from people in a part of Busra, and I turned to worship, and he studied his sciences and felt psychological comfort in being away from people. Even if they were not, they stopped visiting him because there were people who visited him occasionally, and they asked him about their religious affairs. They performed some services for him. They are blessed by seeing him, and they ask for his prayer.